The tool schema is the only interface the model has to your system. It doesn't get to read your code or your docs. It reads the schema. Treat it like the public API it is. Write clear names, document every parameter, list every valid value, include concrete examples, and make irreversible operations require explicit confirmation. Full worked example in blog 270. Link in the description. For tools that delete data, send messages, charge money, or otherwise cause irreversible effects, make the consequences explicit in the description and require explicit confirmation. Add a confirm parameter that must be set to true to execute. Set confirm equals false to mean preview what would happen without doing it. This forces the agent to be explicit about its intent rather than accidentally triggering irreversible actions. The highest leverage single change you can make to a complex parameter is adding a concrete example. For string parameters that require specific formatting, dates, IDs, filter expressions, query strings, show the exact format. In our measurements across 500 tool calls, parameters with concrete examples in their descriptions had a 94% first attempt success rate versus 71% without. The gap is especially large for strings that require specific formatting. Show the exact format, use the exact casing, include required prefixes or delimiters. One good example is worth 3 paragraphs of prose describing the format. Let me go through the 5 patterns I see most often. First, ambiguous enum values. You have a priority parameter, the description says ticket priority level, and you don't list the valid values. The model now has to choose between high, all caps high, P1, urgent, or critical depending on what it's seen in training data. Fix. Use JSON schema enum with the exact values and casing your backend expects. Second, underspecified IDs. A project key parameter with no valid values listed forces the model to infer from context. Fix. Enumerate the valid values, add a sentence explaining when to use each, or add a list projects tool and tell the model to call it first. Third, name description mismatch. Send notification with the description, sends an email is a mismatch. The model reads names before descriptions. Fix. Align the name and description precisely. Fourth, vague booleans. Include details: boolean is unclear. Replace vague booleans with string enums that have explicit definitions. Summary versus full is unambiguous. True versus false requires interpretation. Fifth, missing units. Timeout: integer, is that seconds, milliseconds, minutes? Encode the unit in the parameter name and the description both. I want to talk about a class of agent failure that doesn't show up in your error logs and doesn't raise exceptions. The tool call succeeds. The JSON is valid. The API returns 200 or 201, and the agent is still doing the wrong thing. I spent 2 days debugging an agent that kept filing Jira tickets in the wrong project. Infra instead of ENG, every time. The model was calling the right tool. It was filling in a valid value. The value just wasn't the right one for the context. The bug was in the tool description. The parameter was project key, the description was the Jira project key to file the ticket in, and we hadn't listed the valid values. The model was pattern matching on infra because that word appeared more frequently in the recent conversation history. A 2-word change to the description fixed it immediately. When you have multiple tools that interact, parameter naming needs to be consistent across the set. If your search tool returns a contact ID field and your getDetails tool expects a user ID parameter, the agent will make a parameter copy error. These errors are silent. The wrong ID gets passed, a different contact is retrieved, and the agent continues. Use the same parameter name for the same concept across all tools. Version your tool schemas. When you update a description, log the old and new versions with the date of change. Monitor tool call first attempt success rates by tool name in your OTel traces. If one tool has a 74% success rate and another has 98%, the low one has a schema problem. Keep descriptions concise. In our experience, descriptions over roughly 200 words are often a signal that the tool does too many things and should be split. Schema design should be tested, not just reviewed. 5 test categories that catch most bugs: boundary cases for enums, format stress tests with dates presented in 5 different ways, ambiguous task descriptions that could trigger multiple tools, missing required parameters to see whether the model asks or guesses, and multi-tool sequences checking that IDs flow correctly from one tool's output to the next tool's input. Most writing about AI agents focuses on system prompts and conversation design. The tool schema gets mentioned briefly, write clear descriptions, and then we move on. But in my experience, the schema is where a large fraction of agent reliability failures originate. The reason is simple. The model has 4 inputs when deciding how to call a tool: the tool name, the tool description, each parameter name, each parameter description. That's all. It can't see your backend code. It can't check your internal docs. It uses what's in the schema. If those 4 inputs are weak or ambiguous, the model makes weak decisions. And crucially, it doesn't tell you it's uncertain. It makes its best guess and executes.